rise.
Thank you. Please be seated. Is counsel for each side ready to have the jury brought up? Yes?
We're ready.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may be seated. Is the defense ready to call another witness? Is the state ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense may call a next witness. other evidence. We have just heard from some defense witnesses. Now we are back to the state calling additional witnesses. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer unto God?
I do.
The state may examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. If you could, please restate your name for the record, sir.
Ryan Scheider.
Just wanted to ask you, first of all, were you requested to do some additional activity regarding the truck that the Wagners used the night of the homicides?
Yes.
And specifically, were you asked to use the description that Jake Wagner had gave during his testimony, I guess a few weeks ago now, an attempt to recreate that false bed that he and George built in the truck that they got from Uncle Tom?
Yes.
Can you tell us how you went about that?
So based on the description that he provided, we took 2x4s as well as a sheet of plywood or OSB board, and we placed that in the bed as he described, which was the 2x4s being up on end vertically, not horizontally, along the bed rails on top of the eyelets in the bed, and then the OSB board placed on top of that and secured with screws.
Okay. And specifically, do you recall how he indicated those screws were attached to the 2x4?
From the top down.
Okay. And
So through the plywood into the 2x4s.
okay. And did you take care to recreate it in the, according to the details that Jake Wagner provided on the stand?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And what did you do next?
Once the false bed was constructed, we found 2 volunteers that stated that they would be volunteers and get inside the bed for comparison what it would look like with 2 subjects inside the bed.
Okay. And can you tell us how those individuals were chosen, or what criteria or parameters you were looking for?
Both subjects were larger than Jake and George, so I specifically picked out subjects that were larger in height and weight than Jake and George.
Sorry, Your Honor. Okay. What these triple yeah, so quadruple B. Okay. And can you tell us who the individuals were that agreed to help you with this?
One of the individuals was Investigator Alan Wheeler from the prosecutor's office, and the other was Detective Jenkins from the Scioto County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And can you tell us, did you document their height and weight?
Yes, I did.
And how did you do that?
Actually 3 ways. So I looked at their driver's license, which now only has height. There's no weight listed on driver's license anymore. And then I also had a scale, a bathroom scale, and took their weight. And then I took a tape measure and took an approximate measurement of their height.
Okay. I'm going to show you what has been marked as quadruple B1. Okay, and can you tell us what we are looking at there, please?
This is Investigator Wheeler.
Okay. And quadruple B2, which is the closer up. And can you tell us what his height was?
It's showing him to be approximately 6'3" to 6'4".
Okay. And was that consistent with his driver's license?
Yes, his driver's license stated his height was 6'3".
Okay. And then quadruple B3? And can you tell us what we are looking at there?
Investigator Wheeler standing on a bathroom scale.
Okay. And quadruple B4? This way. Sorry. And can you tell us what we are looking at there?
This is a close-up of the scale as Investigator Wheeler is standing on it, documenting his weight at 254 pounds.
Okay. And then quadruple B5. Can you tell us what we are looking at there?
This is Detective Jenkins standing against the wall with a tape measure in place.
Okay. And quadruple B6. And can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This is a close-up of Detective Jenkins documenting his height, and it's listed as thank you, between 6'7" and 6'8".
Okay. And once again, was that consistent with his driver's license?
Yes, his stated height on his driver's license is 6'7".
Okay. And then quadruple B7? Can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This is a photograph of Detective Jenkins standing on a bathroom scale.
And quadruple B8? Can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This is the close-up of the scale that Detective Jenkins is standing on, documenting his weight at 330 pounds.
Oh, we know, we aren't going to put it up. You're right. You're right. Okay. But also, okay. hand you what's been marked as quadruple B9. We won't put that up on display since it has first one identifiers. But can you tell us what that is?
This is an OLEG printout of Jake Wagner's BMV information, and it shows that it was issued on 11/12 of 2013.
And can you tell us what the height and weight of Jake Wagner is?
He is listed at 6'1" and 170 pounds.
Handing you what's been marked as quadruple B10, if you can tell us what that is.
This would be a OLEG printout of George Wagner's BMV information. The issue date on this driver's license was October 4th, 2016.
And can you tell us what the weight and height of George was in October of 2016?
He's listed at 6 foot, 252 pounds.
6 foot even
Yes,
and 250 pounds?
yes.
Okay, and so the smaller of the two volunteers that you had was 6'3", 254 pounds, correct?
Yes,
And the larger of the two volunteers was 6'7", 330 pounds.
correct.
And Jake was 6'1", 170 pounds,
Yes,
and George was 6 feet tall, 250 pounds.
252, correct.
252, sorry. Okay. Did you take photos of the vehicle with the false bed that you made prior to the volunteers getting inside?
Yes,
Okay. Going to show you what has been marked as quadruple B11.
Allow me to give the jury an instruction here. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the state of Ohio is about to introduce into evidence certain pictures. Now, these constitute what is referred to as demonstrative evidence. Demonstrative evidence may consist of an object, a picture, a model, or other evidence intended to clarify or qualify facts for the jury. Demonstrative evidence does not serve as proof of any facts in itself, but is presented merely to aid the jury in understanding the testimony of a witness or other evidence presented here in court. It is up to you, the jury, to decide what weight, if any, to give the demonstrative evidence. If you find that the demonstrative evidence is not consistent with your recollection or evaluation of the testimony or other evidence, then you must consider how such inconsistency affects the weight to be given to the demonstrative evidence. And in such case, you may find that the demonstrative evidence is to be given little weight or no weight at all. Now you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, quadruple B11, can you tell us what we are looking at there?
And I will overrule the objection that was made. I'm
Sorry.
this is a photograph of the rear of the vehicle that we recovered from the Wagners in Athens County that had been identified as the vehicle that was used the night of the murders. And this is documenting the license plate and then as well as the bed area with the false bed installed.
Okay. And can you tell us, we can see the 2x4s there, they appear to be vertical, correct? Up and down, in other words, up and down as opposed to laying flat. Well,
That's sort of leading in its nature. I think is that the basis of your objection, so the court will sustain that. but
Okay.
you may.
Can you tell us how the 2x4s are positioned?
If you look right here, you can see that they are in a vertical position running along the bed.
Okay. And are those placed on top of the eyelets that you spoke of?
Yes.
And, okay. We'll go on to quadruple B12.
All right, overall.
Okay. And go ahead and tell us what we're looking at there.
This is a photograph of the same vehicle with the false bed installed in it. This is just documenting the side of the vehicle for reference, as well as the rear of the vehicle, so that you can see the cavity or the space created by the false bed.
Okay. And then State's Exhibit quadruple B13. And again, if you can tell us what we're looking at, please.
This is another photograph from that same angle, simply documenting the small ledge that's created on the factory metal bed versus the false wood bed.
And then State's Exhibit quadruple B14. And can you tell us what we're looking at there?
Again, documenting the same thing we saw in the previous photograph, except from the rear driver's side. So again, showing the wooden false bed compared to the factory metal bed and the small lip that's created.
Okay, and quadruple B15. And can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This is a photograph of the vehicle with the tailgate shut in the closed position, with the false bed installed, and with the space, documenting the space between the false bed and the factory metal bed rails.
Okay. And quadruple B16? Okay. And can you tell us what that is?
This is simply documenting the pickup truck with the bed closed, with the false bed installed, and then again focusing on the license plate for reference of which vehicle it is.
Okay. And then quadruple B17? And can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This is a photograph documenting the 2x4 on end vertically on top of the eyelet, and this is the approximate length of the bed, trying to document the length of the bed.
Okay. And quadruple B18? Okay. And can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This is a close-up of the tape measure of that previous, document in the previous shot, showing that the bed is approximately 6'7" inches.
Okay. And is that the same tape measure that you used in?
Yes, it's the same tape measure for documenting the truck and the subjects.
Okay. After you had documented all of those positions and measurements prior to the volunteers getting in, did the volunteers then get into the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us how they got into the vehicle?
They climbed in feet first,
Okay. And can you tell us why you had them do that?
because that's the way it was described.
And once they were inside the vehicle, did you have them lay in various different positions?
Yes, we had them lay on their stomach, on their side, on their back, just because we weren't sure of the positioning.
Okay. Quadruple B19.
Under objection.
Over.
And can you tell us what we are looking at there?
You're looking at Detective Jenkins and Investigator Wheeler laying in the bed of the pickup truck on their back.
Okay. And quadruple B20? It's the
Or continuing objection.
Over.
No. Yep. Okay, quadruple B20. Can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This is a photograph documenting Detective Jenkins and Investigator Wheeler on their sides in the bed of the pickup truck underneath the false floor bed, and documenting the space in between them.
Okay. Quadruple B21. And can you tell us what we're looking at there?
Similar shot as before, just a close-up documenting the space in between them, as well as the position of the 2x4 being in the vertical position.
Okay, and quadruple B22. And can you tell us what we're looking at there?
Detective Jenkins and Investigator Wheeler laying on their stomachs in the prone position inside the bed of the pickup truck with the false bed installed. Again, you can see the 2x4s in a vertical position.
Okay. And quadruple B23. Same question.
Another photograph of Detective Jenkins and Investigator Wheeler in the prone position inside the bed of the pickup truck with a false bed installed.
Okay. And quadruple B24. No, not that one. Okay, and can you tell us what we are looking at there?
This is a photograph of Detective Jenkins, Investigator Wheeler in the bed of the pickup truck with the false bed installed. This is trying to shoot a little bit from the top down, and this is after I open the tailgate.
Okay. And State's Exhibit quadruple B25. And can you tell us what we are looking at there?
Photograph of Detective Jenkins and Investigator Wheeler in the bed of the pickup truck with the false bed installed, and this is with the tailgate partially closed. So I'm about to close the tailgate on the vehicle.
Okay. And then State's Exhibit quadruple B26. Can you tell us what that is?
This would be a a photograph of the truck with the false bed installed with Detective Jenkins inside, as well as Investigator Wheeler with the rear tailgate closed. So both subjects are inside the bed at this time.
And Agent Shire, in addition to just what you heard in the courtroom, did you also go back and review the transcript of Jake's testimony when determining how to create this?
Yes.
And can you tell us, first of all, was that tailgate able to shut completely?
Yes.
And did you observe both of your volunteers, both Wheeler and Jenkins, getting in and out of that vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And can you describe how difficult or not it was for them?
They were able to enter and exit the bed without any issues whatsoever.
Overruled.
Okay. I want to turn your attention now to the year 2018 and your investigative activities during that time period. Were you conducting investigative activities regarding this case in 2018?
Yes.
And let's kind of, before we get to the activity that was conducted in Ohio, did you become aware that the Wagners were traveling from Alaska to Missouri at some point
Yes.
in 2018?
Yes.
And can you tell us, how did you become aware of that?
Through telephone records that associated with the Wagners, the analysts had identified numbers that were associated with real estate and brokers, mortgage brokers in the Missouri area.
Okay. And were you ever contacted by an individual residing in Missouri?
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Fred White.
Okay. And who is Fred White?
He was associated with a mortgage company, so I'm not sure if he was a broker, an underwriter, but I can't remember which one of those, but he was associated with a mortgage company.
Okay. And once you became aware that the Wagners were contemplating a move to Missouri, what did you do as a result of that information?
Mr. White provided us with the information for the property that the Wagners had put a bid on, a purchase bid on, and myself and another agent traveled to Missouri to meet with the Missouri authorities and to also put eyes on that property.
And did you in fact meet with the authorities?
Yes, we met with prosecutor's office, sheriff's office, and the Missouri State Patrol.
And were you able to travel to the property that the Wagners were looking at?
Yes.
And what did you do at that property?
We had a realtor take us to the property, and as we were viewing the property, we took photographs. I took photographs of the inside of the residence to document locations that we could potentially put listening devices.
Okay. Did the Wagners in fact get that property?
No, they did not.
And do you know why not?
The loan was not approved due to suspicions of fraud.
Counsel, wish to approach yours. will sustain the objection to the last question and order that the jury disregard any statement as to the reason for denial of loan at this point.
Okay. Prior to the Wagners moving to, or trying to move to Missouri, had you also traveled to Alaska in an attempt to accomplish the same thing as far as having listening devices?
Yes.
And can you tell us what you did there?
In February of 2018, myself and some other people from BCI, as well as representative from the prosecutor's office, we flew to Alaska. We met with the state attorney general's office in Alaska, as well as the Alaska state troopers and the FBI. And we had discussed plans on trying to figure out a way to bug the Wagner residence on Melody Lane.
Okay. And did that ever occur?
No, it did not.
And why did it not?
They moved before we could initiate the plan.
Okay. Once they were unable to secure property in Missouri, did you learn that they were returning to Ohio?
Yes.
And do you know what residence they went to when they returned to Ohio?
The Havner Lane residence, which would be the one that you guys observed on your jury view.
Okay.
And that would just be Jake, George, Angela, and the children that returned or that moved to that residence.
Okay. And initially, was there another individual present in that residence as far as Jake's wife?
And Beth Ann, correct.
Okay. And as a result of their returning to Ohio, did that make it easier for you to conduct investigative activities?
Yes.
Did you also learn that Jake and George were going to start working together at R&L Trucking Company?
Yes, we did.
And what did you do as a result of that information?
We made contact with the Vice President of Operations at R&L Trucking and explained to him that we would like to install listening devices in the truck that was assigned to George and Jake so that we could listen to their conversations.
And did they grant you that permission to do so?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also get a search warrant in order to install listening devices in that vehicle?
Yes, we did.
And can you tell us what county you got that?
Warren County.
And did R&L make the truck available to you to install the listening devices?
Yes, they did.
Do you recall how many devices you initially installed in that vehicle?
There was 4 devices installed.
And had you attempted to research those devices this time in comparison with the 2017 vehicle?
Yes, we had a little bit more time this time, so we had made contact with Homeland Security Investigations and asked them to basically demo devices for us to help us out because we just didn't know what kind of devices to use. So with their assistance, they gave us some different devices that would potentially work for what we were trying to do, and that's how we picked the devices.
Okay. And did you also get an interception warrant to enable you to monitor any conversations that were recorded?
Yes, we did.
And can you tell us what county that was obtained in?
Franklin County,
Okay. And again, why is it obtained in Franklin County?
because that's where the wire room or the listening station is located.
Okay. Did you also get interception warrants at that time to listen to any of their phones at that same time?
Yes, we did.
And can you tell us whose devices were you monitoring at that time?
Jake, George, Angela, and Billy's.
And were you aware of the work schedule that Jake and George were going to be engaging in?
Yes, we were provided information on their routes from the employer.
Okay. And were the interception warrants approved?
Yes.
Do you recall when you first started monitoring them?
believe it was late May of 2018, and I think it was May 24th.
Okay. I'm not sure if we've discussed this previously, but when you are up on an interception warrant and you are monitoring conversations, is part of the approach to that to engage in investigative activities in order to stimulate conversation amongst your targets?
Yes, that's one of the requirements.
Okay. And you say it's a requirement. Tell me why that is a requirement.
You have to justify when you apply, when you're the affiant for the warrant, you have to justify to the judge that's hearing your probable cause why you believe that conversation about the listed offenses will be discussed amongst the suspects.
Okay.
That typically involves investigative activities is what stimulates them to discuss it.
Okay. And did you do that in this case?
Yes, we did.
Okay. In 2018, when you were monitoring the conversations, I believe you said in May of that year, what kind of activities did you engage in?
So there's a lot of things you can do, but specifically at that time, we had taken the photographs that we got from the laptop up in Montana, so the photographs of the 1911 pistol, and we had confronted people like Rita Newcomb with it, Chris Newcomb, Randa Hughes, people that were close to the Wagners. We knew that that would generate conversation. We also requested Rita and Angela provide handwriting samples, and then we also got an order for Jake, George, and Billy to come to the sheriff's office to provide the foot standards, as well as the fingerprint and palm prints, which are known as major case prints.
Okay. And had you also obtained some additional information from the the laptop that you recovered in Montana, from the vehicle of the Wagners? Had you also obtained information there that you also used in stimulating, in an effort to stimulate conversation?
Yes.
Okay. And additionally, did you use some of the documents and evidence and information that you had already at the time that you had confronted the Wagners at the Montana border in 2007?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And we already discussed the fact that you had also purchased some of the items, some of the identical items that you had observed through the financial and other records of the Wagners, to them purchasing during the months leading up to the homicides. Did you also use some of those items?
Yes.
At some point, did you reach out to George Wagner directly?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us how that occurred?
I sent a text message to George telling him that I would like to speak with him, reference the 1911 as well as the Maglite suppressor.
Okay. And do you recall what date that was?
I believe that was June 14th of 2018.
Okay.
There's a lot of dates.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as quadruple C1. And can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This is a PDF of the screenshot from my BCI issued telephone. This is a photograph that I took with that telephone, with that cell phone, and then I text message or sent to George Wagner on June 14th.
Okay. And then triple C2 or quadruple C2? That's right. If you're able to scroll, so maybe see that, it's hard to see that white. Or, not scroll, but close up. Zoom. Can you tell us what we're looking at there?
That is the photograph of Jake Wagner's hand holding the Walther Colt 1911-22 that we had located on the laptop we seized in Montana. And then there's my text message. So I sent that photograph to George as well. And then the text message that I sent to George is below it.
Okay. And going back to quadruple C1, if we can, just for a moment. I should have asked you more. But what items are those and why did you choose those items?
So if you remember that we had found financial records documenting the purchase of these adapters from Tactical Innovations, we also found financial documents where the purchase of the end caps for the mag light to turn it into a suppressor, and then these are the freeze plugs. So, and then this is a mag light.
Okay.
So we knew that Jake owned this. We saw the purchases of these items, which were consistent with being used for a mag light suppressor.
And those are all items that you purchased based on what you saw them?
Correct, and those are the items that I've already testified to. We went through all those items once before.
Okay. Quadruple C3. Can you tell us what we are looking at there?
This is the 1911 that I purchased for demonstration purposes. And then I took the mag light, took the battery cap off, as well as the flashlight head, installed the purchased accessories, and then attached it to the threaded barrel on the 1911-22,
Okay.
and then took a photograph.
And did you also send that to George on June 14th?
Yes, I did.
And then quadruple C4?
I'm sorry.
Objection to the signing.
Over here.
Can you tell us what we are looking at there?
This is the gun list that we found on the backup of Jake Wagner's phone,
Okay.
or during the extraction of Jake Wagner's phone, I'm sorry.
Okay. And did you also send that to George Wagner on June 14th of 2018?
Yes, I did.
And then quadruple C5? And can you tell us what we are looking at there?
I think there's a better photograph below that of this, but
Yeah, there is. Well, but,
maybe not.
Another objection to the signing.
okay. So quadruple C6, yeah. Okay, and can you tell us what we are looking at there?
This is an additional text message that I sent George Wagner, reference the attached photographs. And that's requesting the location of the 1911-22.
Okay. Your Honor, could we approach, please?
Yeah.
This is the next. Okay. Did you send any other pictures of anything to George on that date?
No.
Okay. Had you also shown some of those same items to Christopher Newcomb?
Yes.
And can you tell us what other activities were you engaging in at that time in order to stimulate conversations?
Throughout the period of June and July of 2018, there was a forum on the internet called Topics, and we were aware that Angela was monitoring that forum regularly. So under various usernames, I posted, made posts on that forum under various usernames, referenced the investigation and different things that may or may not be happening, such as if there was a search taking place somewhere, there was reference made to that. Sometimes there was reference made to searches that never existed, and different steps of where potentially the investigation was leading to. And those posts were documented.
Okay. going to show you, well, first of all, did you obtain photographs of various tattoos that Jake, George, and Billy had?
Yes.
Okay. And showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit Triple Z1. Can you tell us what we're looking at?
This is the tattoo that is on George's right shoulder area.
Okay. And State's Exhibit Triple Z2? And again, is that the same tattoo?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And State's Exhibit Triple Z3?
Again, same tattoo, just showing the other side of it.
Okay. And State's Exhibit Triple Z4?
It's an overall photograph of that tattoo on George's right shoulder area.
Okay. And then showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit Triple Z5? Can you tell us what that is?
This is the scorpion tattoo that is on Billy Wagner's right index finger.
Okay. And then Triple Z6? Okay. Yep. And you don't, is that the same as this?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit Triple Z6 through Triple Z10. If you could just go through and name which one you're looking at and tell me what it is.
Triple Z6 is a photograph of the tattoo that is on Jacob Wagner's right bicep area.
Okay.
Triple Z7, another photograph of the same tattoo, just a different location. Triple Z8, same tattoo, again, just moving around his arm. Triple Z9, it's a view of the same tattoo from the rear. Triple Z10 would be the tattoo on the left ring finger of Jacob Wagner.
Okay. And as part of, again, your investigation, and upon learning that Jake's phone had Googled the Boondock Saints video clip the night of the homicides, did you do any research into that movie, I guess?
Yes, I watched Boondock Saints 1 and then the second one.
Okay. And can you just tell us, generally, who are the main characters in Boondock Saints?
Basis is over.
The main characters are two brothers, twin brothers, the McManus brothers.
Okay. And can you tell us is there an actor that plays one of the brothers that is also in The Walking Dead?
Yes,
And who is that actor?
Norman Reedus.
Okay. And can you tell us if the father of the brothers plays a role at all in either of those movies.
Yes.
Overruled.
And can you tell us what kind of weapons they use in that movie?
At one point, they use 1911s. At one point, they use Berettas, and they have flashlight-type suppressors attached to them.
At the end of the second movie, is there a conversation that the father has with his former best friend?
Yes.
One of the approach here is we're going to take our afternoon break now. It's been a little over an hour and a half, I think, since you brought up. And so, ladies and gentlemen, while you're on this break, do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. Do not permit this case to be discussed with you or in your presence. Do not form or express an opinion concerning the case. Do not do any research at all as to the facts or the law of the case from any source at all. Do not read, view, or listen to any reports or accounts of the case from any source at all, and have no contact with participants in the case, including parties, counsel, or witnesses. We will be in recess until 20 before 4. So, what is that, 3:40, I think? And so, does counsel for either side have anything that you wish to say before we recess until 3:40?
No, Your Honor.
No.
All right, then we are in recess. Jury to assemble at the jury room at that time. Snippet of a video being played obtained from I believe one of the cell phones or the laptop. I can't recall now exactly the source of it, but concerning this Boondock Saints thing. But I'm a little concerned that we're going down the road. I'm not sure how far down this road with this movie that we're talking about going and how the state intends to link this up with issues in the case. So there's an objection to it. And so I'd like to hear the explanation for it.
Yes, Your Honor. As this court probably recalls, we had several witnesses testify that Jake dyed his hair the week of the homicide, according to him, to look like Norman Reedus, according to him on the stand and according to him to other people who observed that. Norman Reedus is one of the brothers in this case, is the actor that plays one of the brothers in this case. They are vigilante killers. They kill people who they believe need killing. They believe that, the laws of God are higher than the laws of man. And their father joins them later. They put into evidence a picture of Billy that, quite frankly, looks stunningly like the actor that plays the father in this case, including, the long duster and all the little gadgets and such. They wear ski masks, just as Jake describes they wore. They use 1911s in one part of it, and they use Berettas, 9mm Berettas, which we've done a comparison, and if you recall, that was the gun that Jake was trying to modify to use that, and they have two of them. It's actually also the gun that George bought shortly after the homicides. So we think it's very relevant. The last conversation that the father has with his best friend, whom he's there to kill, is about the scorpion and the frog. And he talks about the fact that, I don't know if the court's familiar with the scorpion and the frog, but basically, scorpion asks frog for a ride across the river. The scorpion's afraid to do it because he knows, or the frog's afraid to do it because he knows scorpions tend to sting you and kill you. And the frog expresses fear to the scorpion, and the scorpion says, if I did that, we would both die. And in the middle of the river, the scorpion stings the frog, and they both drown and die. And the frog says, why did you do this? And he said, you should never have trusted me. It's my nature. Well, that's a dialogue that, at the very end of the second movie, that the father and his best friend engage in. And then we see Billy getting this scorpion tattoo on his trigger finger, June 9th, I believe, less than a month and a half after the homicides, the same time that George is getting this skull with an 8-ball in its mouth with 3 aces. So again, we think it's relevant. We think it's a very strong inference that the jury can make. Obviously, the jury's the fact finder. They can decide whether or not they think that's parallel, but we especially think, in regarding, again, the identity of the defendant as one of these individuals, it is a story about 2 brothers that go out and, conduct these killings of people that they feel deserve to die because of, things that they are doing. So, again, I think it's a fair inference for the jury to make. And Jake admits to watching it and showing it to George that night. So.
Those of us who seek our entertainment from other sources, the frog story is from what?
So that's actually a fable that exists in the real world. I've known about it forever because I sometimes make that quote, right? It's my nature. But that's a fable that, can't think of another fable, but that existed before this movie. But in the movie, they reference that story, or like the scorpion and the frog, and he says in the end.
And that is from which movie?
Boondock Saints 2. So it's a series.
Well, one of the things I'm concerned with is whether the jury will be somewhat in the same boat I am and not have watched either of these or any of these movies, and therefore that we're losing them.
Well, and that's why we were trying to present that evidence to them, the pertinent parts of the movie, so that then we're free to argue that. And again, whether or not they think there's any validity to that, or decide that they want to make that inference is obviously up to them as the fact finders. But we are coming from that this is not in every one of the thing. I could tell you during my opening statements, I saw a couple of people who very much seemed to know what I was talking about when I mentioned the Boondock Saints stuff. But, you know, I frankly had never seen it until this case. I also do not seek my entertainment in this type of stuff. So, you know, so we just are trying to give those salient points to the jury. You know, it's two brothers, there's a father that joins them, they wear ski masks, they use the 1911 with silencers, they use 9mm Berettas, and the scorpion and frog tail is simply for us to, you know, suggest an inference to them of the scorpion tattoo that shows up on Billy's trigger finger. You know, like I said, I'm not going to have...
You're saying the last conversation that, you were mentioning a conversation.
So conversations between the father in that show and his best friend whom he kills. So, and they're just talking about that, you know, basically you should have never trusted me. I'm like the scorpion, you know. I will kill you even though it means hurting myself. So it seems like there's a lot of parallel there.
There's actually, in the 90s, there was a movie called Natural Born Killers that came out. As a result of that movie, there were killings and spree-type criminal activities in several states across the country that were either motivated or kind of tracked with the story of Natural Born Killers. As a result of that, there has been some case law that has come out that deals with these types of issues. And I would just direct your attention to a couple cases. Again, these are federal cases, and then I'll direct you to a Georgia case. But the United States versus Wills, W-I-L-L-S, that's a Fourth Circuit U.S. case. And it's 346 F. 3rd 476. It's a 2003 case. And the Lexus number is 20420. There's another case, United States versus Monsalvage, and that's M-O-N-S-A-L-V-A-T-G-E. Again, that's another Second District Court of Appeals of the federal court. It's at 850 F. 3rd 483, 2017 U.S. App Lexus 4067. And then finally the one out of Georgia, Supreme Court of Georgia case. It's a 1998 case, 269 Georgia 620. It's got a 1998 Georgia Lexus 744 number. And what these really dealt with was the ability to play the movie or clips of the movie before the jury. And again, the court found in each of those cases that there were relevant links between what was happening in the movie or the parts of the movie and what had happened in the case. Clearly, there can be a limiting instruction. We want a limiting instruction with respect to this type of evidence, but it is clearly admissible to show, again, inspiration, mocking or trying to recreate or being motivated or inspired. And that's what you have. You have two brothers and a dad who are basically vigilante killers, killing people they think need to be killed to protect the citizenry, using the same type of equipment, the same type of clothing as our suspects do, and then you got this tattoo linkage. So certainly we think it's relevant. We would prefer to do it through pictures, screen captures, a couple screen captures, and testimony about what the movie's about, as opposed to actually just playing the movie for the jury. But that's the approach in both movies. That's the approach that we have.
Well, the limited instruction you mentioned, I don't know if you've crafted anything or not. When do we give that? Or should we give that? I'm just curious about what kind of a limited instruction we would give.
Yeah,
I mean,
Some kind of
I think,
cautionary.
you know, at some point you're allowed to, when the court instructs them about inferences they're allowed to make, but they don't have to make those. I mean, you know, that
That's a
OJI
general
instruction.
instruction.
Yeah.
I'm not
that
sure.
would
I
be
thought maybe you
appropriate.
mentioned something about similar to what we gave on the demonstrative evidence instruction. But all right. So the point you're making is that there are enough similarities here that those should be tied up by somebody's testimony. And
yes, especially given the fact that the night of the murders, before they went out on the murders, we know that this video clip, or a clip from one of those movies, was played. And again,
Basically 4 hours before the homicides.
the argument that we would make, the inference that could be drawn is this is motivation to pump up to go do it.
And on behalf of the defense.
Thanks, Jeff. We obviously jumped to this. A few points I think are really important here. One, as far as dyeing of the hair, Jake stated unequivocally that dyeing of the hair had nothing to do with the murders. That was his testimony. Also, there's no 9mm used in the aggravated murders here. Obviously, there was a code. This whole fable about the scorpion and the frog is a real reach because there's no evidence of a conversation between Billy and Chris. It seems to be the state is conceding that Billy shot and killed Chris by making this argument, but there's absolutely nothing in evidence that they had any conversation that would even come close to this statement. It's really speculation is what they're talking about. It seems to be a little bit desperate in my mind. But with respect to these tattoos and other items, what they seem to be doing, Judge, is taking an express statement, whatever the tattoo is, all right? And they're trying to project or convince the jury to take some inferred meaning from an express statement. And there is some case law on this, especially with respect to tattoos, and that comes from different sources. But the general rule seems to be that before one can make an inference of an implied statement from a declarant's express statement, it's a two-part test. One, the declarant, the person with the express statement, the declarant, in fact, intended to make such an implied statement. And or two, the recipient of the express statement would reasonably believe that the declarant intended by his express statement to make an implied statement. It's a little bit complicated, but it's basically taking an object, for example, the scorpion, all right? That's a scorpion, that's the express statement, but they're asking that there be something implied from it, all right? And so the test seems to be that one, the person with the scorpion, in fact, intended to make such an implied statement, or two, that the person receiving that statement reasonably believed that was the declarant's purpose to make the express statement, to make an implied statement. So, it's very complicated. I don't think there's a factual basis for what they're asking here, whether it's with respect to the tattoos or with respect to these movies that they're referencing. As I remember Jake's testimony, he himself perhaps watched a brief portion of the movie, but not the entire thing. And we don't think that there's a factual basis for the comparison that they're attempting to make. That these two movies in their totality somehow implicate our client in these aggravated murders and other charges.
And yet we have this snippet from the movie sent out close proximity to the time that these murders occurred.
And also, Your Honor, we had testimony from both Chris Newcomb and Randa, who said that Boondock Saints was Jake and George's favorite movie. And you had Angela saying that while she doesn't recall seeing that snippet that night, they were always quoting that movie. So, again, what we just heard, I think, is closing argument from Mr. Parker. He's free to argue that this has nothing to do with the homicides. But I think we are likewise able to argue that this very much is relevant, and they can make these inferences that we believe exist.
All right, so we have, I'm sorry.
If I may, I just want to remind the court, the rule against inference stacking forbids the drawing of an inference from evidence which is too uncertain or speculative, which raises merely a possibility of conjecture. Inference stacking is prohibited. There's an inference here that One, that George watched it. Two, that it had some effect on him, that these weapons that are used in this movie somehow have some connection to these murders, and then this whole thing about this fable with the scorpion, it's just inference stacking upon inference stacking, which is purely prohibited. We don't think that this evidence should reach the jury.
It's actually direct evidence that that movie was watched that night, direct evidence that this is his favorite movie, direct evidence that he and his brother quote this movie, from which that direct evidence, we are free to draw inferences, which makes it circumstantial. And circumstantial and direct evidence can have the same weight. So it's not inference stacking, it's take drawing inferences from direct evidence that implicates this defendant is relevant. So certainly we'd be allowed to use this evidence.
Where are we? There was a question asked and an objection to it.
I asked about what dialogue there was between the father and his former best friend at the end of the movie, and then they objected. Because we'd already, I think, done brothers basically killing people that they deemed deserved to die.
We don't have that as a factual basis either, all right?
Say it again.
We do not have that as a factual basis either. I mean, what Jake and Angela clearly said is that these murders took place because of suspected sex abuse, which has nothing to do with these movies. All right?
People that
That's what
deserve to
they-
die, and that you need to kill to protect the vulnerable. Same thing.
Speculation.
We didn't just-
Are we going to bring in a movie to every criminal trial that might somehow have
No.
influenced somebody? I mean, it's such a reach.
If it's their roadmap.
That's the other thing, it's the movie is the best evidence. We shouldn't have testimony about what we're inferring this means.
Well, if you disagree with what he's saying, then you're free to cross him on that. But I doubt that we want to play
So
4 hours.
I think our break's up. I don't know whether the parties here, council intends to take a break. My thought has to do with this snippet that was played and the timing of that snippet that was played in close proximity to these murders, which seems to me opens the door to bring in whether this movie has a connection or not. Now, obviously, the defense, can cross-examine on that, argue it against it, or present evidence against it. But it does seem to me that the state should not be precluded from at least trying to draw that conclusion. So I'm going to overrule the objection to the question that was asked. Now, I don't know the extent to which I don't know the extent to which anybody's seen this. I suppose the entire prosecution has viewed the movie for purposes of trial preparation. I don't know.
Your Honor, we did, by the way, we did provide this in discovery, supplemental discovery. We did notify them that,
Sent them a
Boondock
CD?
Saints movies were
You sent them a
there.
DVD of the movie, or what?
Well, yeah, no, I figured they could get it off the interwebs.
All right. So, do you wish to take a break, or before we bring the jury back up then?
Yes.
Yes, from the court reporter.
So let's break until 10:10.
I guess all of them, except.
why don't we go ahead and go on the record, and let me ask, so we're on the record now. Is counsel for each side ready to have the jury brought back in?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, we have one juror who is having some difficulties ambulating today, so we're going to bring her in separately, so you can go ahead and bring her in. What would we put it on? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know. Would it help you to elevate your leg at all or not? Sure.
No, it's okay.
You may be seated. All right. There was a question, I believe, asked. You may have to ask it again, but there was a question, I think, before the witness, and then there was an objection to it. Do we need it? Do you want to ask it again, or do we need it read back?
If we could get it read back, if that's not too much trouble, Your Honor.
I thought we had a question, maybe we didn't.
Yeah.
Question. At the end of the second movie, is there a conversation that the father has with his former best friend?
Okay.
Okay. That's a yes or no type question, and you objected to that. And the courts are going to overrule the objection. The witness may answer. That's just a yes or no question.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell what that conversation is
Overruled.
about?
I'm not done with the question yet, I guess. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Can you tell us what the conversation is about?
Overruled.
The father has a conversation with his friend who is the head of a crime family, and it's in reference to the scorpion and frog fable.
Okay. And can you tell us what the scorpion and frog fable is?
Overruled.
The scorpion asks the frog to assist him. Can I ride you across the waterway, the river, to the other side? The frog expresses concern that the scorpion would sting him and shouldn't do that. So the scorpion convinces the frog that he's not going to sting him. And, you know, if I would sting you, then both of us would die, we would drown. So the frog thinks that's reasonable. He allows the scorpion onto his back, starts swimming across the water, and the scorpion stings him, and they both drowned.
Okay. And do you recall if the frog asks the scorpion why he did that?
Objection.
Yes.
And what does the scorpion say in response?
Objection.
That it's in his nature, that he can't help himself.
And following that conversation, is there a shootout where the father kills his best friend?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yes, the movie ends with the father shooting his best friend with the aid of his two sons.
I'm going to, well, I don't know if I asked you this or not, but did the brothers wear any face coverings in the movie?
Yes, in the first movie they wore masks.
Okay, and can you describe what kind of masks?
Overruled.
What's commonly referred to as ski mask or the winter style mask with the eyes and the hole for the mouth.
Okay. And I believe you already indicated the type of weapons, is that right?
Types of weapons?
Yes.
Yes, Berettas and 1911s.
Okay. Going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit Quadruple D1. Okay, and can you tell us, first of all, do you recognize what that is?
Yes, it's the two brothers from the Boondock Saints series.
Okay, and can you,
We object.
All right, overruled.
can you tell us which one is the actor known as Norman Reedus?
The one on the left.
Okay, and, all right, State's Exhibit Quadruple D2.
Objection.
Overruled.
Can you tell us what that is?
This is a still shot of one of the scenes from the Boondock Saints with the two brothers wearing the masks with pistols, mag light suppressors right before they kill some people.
Okay, and State's Exhibit Quadruple D3, it's just, that's the same scene, correct?
Correct, it's a screenshot.
Okay.
Overruled.
Quadruple D4? Can you tell us what that is?
This is a screenshot of the father in the second episode, one of the final scenes right before he gets in a shootout.
Overruled.
Quadruple D5? Again, that is the same photo.
Screenshot, the same thing.
Quadruple D6?
Objection.
Can you tell us what that is?
This is a,
I'm an overruled objection.
I'm sorry.
Overruled.
No, thank you.
I'm sorry, okay.
Go ahead.
This is a screenshot of the father in the first movie where he's about to get in a shootout with the two brothers with a 1911 and a Beretta style pistol.
quadruple D7. Can you tell us what we are looking at there?
This is a close-up of one of the brothers' hands.
Objection is
This is supposed to, counsel one of the
Well-
parties tell me how this relates to our.
Oh, yep.
appears to me. I'm going to overrule the objection. Objection's overruled. The witness may answer. I don't know if he remembers the question or not.
What are we looking at?
It's a still shot of one of the brothers holding a Beretta pistol.
objection.
Overruled.
Okay, and State's Exhibit quadruple D8. And
Overruled.
can you tell us what that is?
This is a close-up still shot of one of the brothers holding a Beretta pistol.
Okay. And in this segment, are they both using Berettas?
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you to use what's previously been marked as State's Exhibit Double D, 616. And first of all, if you can tell us what that item is.
Double D 616 is evidence item number 10, and this is a label from crime scene, and it's stating that it was taken from 6851 Camp Creek Road, which is the Flying W Farms. It is a Beretta 92F 9mm pistol,
Objection.
Overruled.
and it was collected May 13th, 2017.
Okay. And are you able to look at that weapon? You've testified that that is a Beretta. If you could tell us how you are able to determine that for those of us.
So there's a couple things. Number one, I'm familiar with Berettas from being a firearms instructor and armorer, but I can't even see the screen. May I stand, Your Honor? But this is a known Beretta 92F. If you look, the safety lever the same positioning. The takedown levers are in the same position. The ejection port is located in the same area. The rear sight is in the same area. And then when the weapon is closed,
Just object to opinion evidence. I think this is opinion evidence. We would object to this.
Objecting on what basis again?
He's giving his opinion on this. His opinion.
There's a question that,
I'm overruling the objection.
if you look at the off safety indicator, which is the fire position is the same, and then the hammer is in the same position, beaver tail is in the same position, similar trigger guard. It's all consistent with it being a Beretta.
Okay. And can you tell us the serial number on that particular weapon that you are using as comparison?
A is an Adam, 10108. Looks like 7Z as in zebra.
Okay. And then State's Exhibit Quadruple D9.
Objection.
Overruled.
Can you tell us what we are looking at there?
This is the two brothers in the movie. They are both holding Beretta pistols with suppressors attached to the muzzle.
Okay. And are you aware as to whether or not there is a religious overtone to their killings?
Yeah.
The basis of the,
Foundation.
Well,
well, I'm not sure what religious overtone even means, so I'm
Okay.
going to sustain the objection.
you've watched the movies, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a religious component involved in the homicides?
Yes.
Calls for an opinion.
Well, it's an observation.
Say it again.
Calls for an opinion.
Unless he's commenting on something, I mean, best evidence will apply.
I'm going to sustain the objection. I'm not sure, if you want to argue it, but I'm not sure how this relates to what we're doing.
Okay. Do they do anything in particular before they shoot their victims?
Yes.
What do they do?
Say a prayer.
Objection.
No, overruled.
And Agent Scheider, I'm done. Well, I guess I'm done with that. Yeah, that last photo was, what did you say that was?
It's the two brothers holding Beretta pistols with suppressors on the muzzle during one of the killing scenes.
Okay.
Overruled.
And can you tell us, Agent Scheider, I'm interested in the proffer of Angela Wagner. Were you present for that?
Yes.
And can you tell us how long that was in terms of length of time of that interview?
I believe it was approximately 4.5 hours.
Okay. And Do you know approximately how long the interview of Angela Wagner was at the border in Montana?
I believe it was just over 2 hours long.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
All right, you may cross-examine.
Given the hour, perhaps take break till tomorrow.
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Yes. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to recess for the day. You'll be going home, and you'll be coming back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Of course, the admonition is do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. Do not permit anyone to discuss this case with you or in your presence. Do not form or express an opinion concerning this case until it's finally submitted to you for deliberation and verdict. Do not do any research at all concerning the facts or the law of the case from any source at all. Do not read, view, or listen to any reports or accounts of the case from any source at all, including newspapers, radio, or television, and also including any of the internet sites and Facebook or any social networking sites or any source whatsoever, and have no contact with participants in the case, including parties, counsel, or witnesses. One thing, I don't think any of you reported any difficulties as far as voting. I had mentioned that on Thursday, I think, and then Friday was an unusual day. We went home, you went home early that day, but nobody has reported any problems, so I'm not hearing any today either. So I assume all of you have made arrangements to exercise your vote if you wish to. Does counsel for either side have anything further that you wish to put on the record?
Probably have a just very briefly.
It may go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, including part of your research, or not to view, there's been some reference here to a movie, Boondock Saints 1 and 2. You're not to review that, of course, not to view that. And that would come under, I think, the admonition not to do any research, but I'll tell you that specifically also. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, you're to assemble at the jury room, and you'll be brought up from there by agents of the court. Now, does either party have anything else you wish to put on the record before we recess until tomorrow at 9? Then we are in recess until tomorrow at 9. Leave your notepads on your seats. Wear your badges home and back tomorrow.